won 7 straight, 7-2. The last time he's won 7 games in the same season was 1897. I believe Paul Peck was still calling the games back then. I sent out a release earlier, and it's in the notes. Khalil Mack was invited to the Senior Bowl today. He's the second UP player ever named or invited to the Senior Bowl, joining Jerry Philbin back in 1964. And our guest today, Joe Licata, is sophomore starting quarterback. 13 career starts. He is now 10-3, including 10-1 in MAC games. So with that, I'll hand it over to head coach Jeff Quinn. Go from there.
Well, thank you, John. I want to appreciate everyone being here. That has been a long time. 7 straight wins back in 1897. You know, we kind of kid Coach Tepper that it was his redshirt freshman year playing. Paul, you were commenting on the game, but it's exciting. It was exciting, and I really appreciate our True Blue student section. I know our football team really felt their energy on the sideline, and it was great for them to be out there. Being on national television and over 100 million households saw a very strong showing by this football team, and I was real pleased with all 3 phases. You know, the key for me at this point is to maintain, you know, their poise and composure and their understanding how they've gotten to this point, you know, and keep their mind focused on the next task and the next opponent and staying locked into the moment, you know, the process, not the prize. And they've done a great job. You know, this is a senior class is very special to me to be able to take the last 2 games they played in that stadium last year and won them, and then be able to take all 5 home games this year has put them in a 7-game home win streak here. Outstanding accomplishment by a group of young men that have really bought into the plan and have really dedicated themselves to each other, and that's what a great team does. You know, I also know that coming up, this next opponent, Toledo, is a very good football team. They're well coached. They have some outstanding players. You know, we know a little bit about Bernard Reedy, their talented wide receiver, you know, their quarterback. They have a run game. They spread you to run it. They have a very good active defense. You know, speed will show up in all 3 phases. They've got a lot of good players. You'll see it in offense, defense, special teams. You know, so they're well structured and they're playing well, and they're a program that certainly put themselves in position to be another bowl eligible MAC opponent. So, you know, it's going to be a great test for us to go on the road and be able to secure a win against this opponent is certainly another important step for us to achieve. This gentleman to my right, Joe, I've had great pleasure of, you know, recruiting him, bringing him here, but more importantly, you know, Joe has given us a steady, winning, consistent performance. You know, I think Joe will even be the first one to admit that, you know, he needed to improve his second half performance than it was in his first half, and that's what I appreciate about Joe. I appreciate that about my coaching staff. They do a tremendous job going in that locker room, making adjustments, necessary coaching points so they can come out in the second half. In our third quarter over the last 7 games, we're 79 points for and 7 against. A very impressive showing from our football team and our coaching staff. And this gentleman here has done an unbelievable job of really, you know, coming in and doing the things he needs to do to help this team win. And he's a dedicated young man, both off the field as much as he is on the field. He's worked extremely hard in the strength and conditioning area. You know, he comes from a tremendous family. He's a Western New Yorker, the first recruit that I had a chance to get to know when I first came here. And it's just it's an exciting time for us. And we're going to continue running the very best football program in the country because we have young men like Joe representing our program. So with that, we'll open up for any questions that you have.
Ever hear of C.W. Dibble?
I'm sorry?
Ever hear of C.W. Dibble?
C.W. Dibble.
Yeah.
Is this who is this gentleman?
He's the coach of that 1890.
Oh, very good. C.W. I appreciate that, bringing that up. I did not go back that far in my archives, but it was a great coach. because obviously you win in 7 in a row. We're in the same company, so I appreciate you sharing that with us.
I mean, because it's, as odd as it might be, it's unprecedented, it's almost unprecedented, the run that you guys are on, is I think what I'm getting at. Just, what do you make of this run and where this team has gone over these 7 years?
Yeah, just their maturity level. I think when you look at our senior class and how much they've been through, when you look at all the winter conditioning days, and spring ball and summer training and how these kids have stayed together, it's a very close-knit unit. These are young men that when you go through all those moments and all the sacrificing that you've done, we have a phrase here. We say, "I got your 6." I got your back, and that's what they've been able to do. Through the course of their development, and I've always said, if you bring in the right kind of people and you have a plan, which we do, we have a plan, and I'm very consistent. That's been a lot of the keys to our success is being able to bring in the right kind of kids, the right kind of young men that come from great families, and have a plan to develop them in the 4 areas of intellectual development, social development, spiritual development, physical skill development, and they're a close-knit group, and they care about each other. And you add that with great coaches, which I have a tremendous coaching staff, and the continuity, you're going to win games on the field. And I saw evidence off the field. I think that was another message that I sent to these young men. Until you learn how to win off the field, it's not going to translate on the field. And that's the beauty of this football team. And it's neat to see it because I saw evidence last year, even though last year after 8 games we were 1-7 and people were certainly not too fired up. Neither were we, and neither were they as players. But I also knew that some of those key games that we didn't secure the win last year, we were in them. I knew our kids were fighting. They were going to compete for 4 quarters, and then they were able to win 3 out of 4. And I know going into this season, and we had a tremendous, feeling amongst the team. And I know with the leadership of Khalil Mack and Bo Oliver, you look at the way Bo plays. He plays inspired, tough, relentless football. It's just impressive to see how much this team has grown and how much they are becoming more confident. And there is no confusion in that locker room in terms of what these kids understand of what they're capable of doing, how we continue to prep them, and get back into the grind this week to do it. And we got to keep building on what we have accomplished so far, and it's important that we recognize how we got to where we are today and how we will continue to bring our program along.
Coach, the best teams will tell you it's important not to get too high or too low. CW Dibble, he got too high on a 7-game streak. That's why he didn't go to 8 games, right, Joe?
No, it was 7-0 season.
Oh, there you go. Well, the season ended.
It's over, right? No, we'd like to continue. That's it.
Said than done.
Yeah.
Especially in an exciting game like this, exciting season like this. How do you maintain that stability?
For me, it's the same thing I've said. Being mature, being responsible, understand it's a process. It's the joys in the journey. It's the relationships that we have as coaches amongst ourselves and the players, with their families. That's what I get excited about, where I've seen these young men begin and where they are today, and they know a collective and collaborative effort on that field and what they're demonstrating and what the identity that they're trying to create each and every single week is what keeps us humble. And we understand being other-centered, and it's not about us individually, it's about us as an entire team. And that's been the message that we've brought, and those are the young men that we have in our program. So when you hear Khalil Mack get invited to the Senior Bowl, what a tremendous opportunity for that young man. But the first thing he's going to do, he's going to talk about his teammates, because no one man alone can do it. And for him and this team, it represents the very thing you want in a bunch of young men going to college, playing the great game of football, and experiencing something that they've never done. And that's what this is about. And we'll stay humble because we know we haven't accomplished anything yet. We haven't achieved the goals that we've set forth. And that's why this game and this day and as we move forward are so important for us to, stay locked in, continue doing what we've been doing, understand how you got in here, and keep a close watch on each other and being held accountable, so we don't let somebody veer off into an area that could obviously be a distraction and do something or say something that won't be conducive to us being successful. And I think we have a very good leadership group of guys that are going to continue to do it. But it's exciting.
Joe, same question. You're in your hometown here, and I would imagine you get a lot of your friends coming up. Wow, 7-game winning streak. You're 10-3 as a starter. Is it sometimes difficult not to get caught up in other people's excitement?
No, it's great having the support around here. People coming up, knowing who you are, and saying congrats. We're following you, but you got to realize you're never as good as people say you are, and you're never as bad as people say you are. So you're always somewhere in between. And we've just been trying to stay humble and hungry this entire season. And I think we've done a good job of that.
What have been your impressions? Could you have imagined this when you took over and now you're 10-3 and this team is on this roll?
Absolutely. I'm a pretty confident guy. Probably the most confident guy you'll ever talk to. I'm actually kind of mad we lost those 3 games. So I expected nothing but success once we got here. I knew Coach Quinn had a great plan coming in. And when you've got guys like Brandon Oliver and Alex Newts and Freddie Lee on the offensive side of the ball, you're going to have success.
What do you make of this 7-game run that you guys are on?
It's just a process right now. We've won 7 in a row, but nothing's more important than the 8th this week. So we've got a real tough test in Toledo. They've got a lot of great players. They got a lot of speed defensively and offensively, obviously, and a guy you guys know, and Dave Fluellen, he's a great player. So we've got our hands full this week.
Jeff, Paul Peck from the Bulls Radio Network. Your defense has certainly been playing at a high level throughout this winning streak. Was it a notch higher Tuesday? Was there a next step that they took in what they were able to do to what very few teams have ever done to Tarleton and that offense in particular?
Without a doubt, our defense, was challenged all week. They were talking about, they had over 400 yards on the average going into this game, scoring over 33 points, one of the most prolific passing quarterbacks in offense, so on and so forth. So we knew that our defense was going to be challenged, number one, schematically and also by their personnel. But when you got guys like Khalil Mack and Kobe Way and Christian Sicoli and Skinner and Stockman and you talk about Brim and Houston and Nigel Johnson and Courtney. I can keep going. I mean, it's an impressive group. But then you see Jarrett Franklin, who's a true freshman. And it goes to show that Lou Tepper is as detailed of a football coach that I've been around. 30 years of coaching, these guys, they clock a lot of hours of studying every little thing when it comes to schemes, to plays, to formations, and, down a distance and color zones and, when to pressure, when not to pressure. He has got a tremendous sense for the game and his players and how he calls the game. So, I'm very pleased with the way they stepped up. They were amped up. There was without a doubt. People talked about, what'd you say to them? I didn't have to say anything. I said I could just look in their eyes, and they were hungry to go out there and prove that they want to be the best defense. And we have personnel in that scheme and the structure of the way we do things. It's exciting, and we're going to need that. We're going to need that again, and we're going to need a great defense in order for us to continue striving to achieve our goals. And I think they're feeling good and confident about all the things that we're doing.
How did Alozzi and Bell do in replacing Redden in a very crucial part of your defense?
Tremendous. I mean, we held Ohio to 3 points, and we frustrated that offense. Their quarterback was frustrated. I think their entire team was frustrated. And what it did is it allowed our offense in the second half to really kind of get moving and really exert our will. It takes time. Good teams, a lot of times those first 2 quarters, we all know that, we all go in with a game plan. We're looking for it to find out kind of what they're thinking, what we're thinking. But when you have other players that have been developed under the same mindset, like Casey and Tamaris, when a guy goes down, as effective and as productive as Adam Redden had been for us, and those kids, we didn't miss a beat. And it just tells you that, they're mature, they're responsible, and they care about their teammates, and they're blocking out the external factors. And those kids are chomping at the bit to go in there and make plays. And then we saw their effectiveness not just on the defensive side, but also in special teams. I mean, Acacia Loshi came down on a couple. Our kickoff coverage was one of the best nights I've seen. And if they keep doing that, we're going to have an outstanding field position advantage and potentially a chance to take the ball away. But both those guys did a great job for us.
If Tettleton and the offense was a little bit of that challenge point for your defense last week, obviously his status is a little up in the air, but is Fluellen being number 2 in the conference behind Bo as the number 2 rusher, is he a little bit of that guy for this week for your defense? Well,
he's another great player, and we see him week in and week out, and we're going to see more of it as we come to a close of this season. This game in particular, we know about Fluellen. We know about, and they brought in a freshman, last week, and they're putting up, they almost put up, 700 and 800 yards. I mean, that's impressive. So, without a doubt, we're going to have to stay locked in. But they got good speed, but so do we. And I like the way we match up to this team, and it'll be exciting to see us be able to take our mindset on the road, just like we have at home, and we're going to lean heavily on our defense. But we know that they have a talented group of players and a good structural scheme that they can score quickly and make some big plays. So, we're going to have to stay locked in and make sure that we're communicating properly, and we're going to have to take away the run game because they spread to run the ball. A lot of people think they're spread to throw, and they do throw the ball, and they have some big playmakers out there, but their mindset is to run the ball, but it structurally spreading you out.
Jeff, here's a question you've not faced here in Buffalo. What is your policy on scoreboard watching? Will you ignore or have the team ignore any scores on Tuesday night, given the fact that if you could essentially clinch first place, knowing how that Bowling Green might have Ohio goes?
Right. My philosophy is you block out the external factors. You control what you can control, and don't you take a second of your time to be putting your mind into what others are doing. Focus on yourself. Team that's less affected by those external factors and scores and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter who you play, doesn't matter what their record is, doesn't matter what the score is, doesn't matter what anybody else has done. We need to go into this game, locked into our assignments, our effort, our technique, our fundamentals. I even told the team, and maybe Joe could share it, but I even told them before the Ohio game, and I try to, this is the way I was raised, and when a coach taught me to quit worrying as a competitor about what the score is, whether you're in football, whether you're in a competitive environment, whether it's wrestling, just go kick that guy's butt and you're going to come out on the top. And it doesn't matter who did, at another place or another program. And just like last night, you see, how Stanford, was able to beat Oregon and how Baylor was able to beat Oklahoma. Those are games that we can't control, and our players know that when you start pulling your mind into those areas, you start to get distracted, and it's tempting sometimes, don't get me wrong, but our goal is to win out, and to do that, we have to beat Toledo, and we have to be well prepared, and the grind starts again today, an intense Tuesday. You didn't know today was intense Tuesday, even though it's Friday, okay? But it's intense Tuesday for us in our mindset.
How challenging is that, Joe, to not watch
It's not too challenging, honestly, because we have so much to worry about this week with Toledo coming in. I mean, they're a great team, so we have a lot to worry about. And we know whatever happens outside of our control, it doesn't matter because we're in control of our own destiny. If we win out, we know we're playing in Detroit. And that's all that matters to us is to get that opportunity. And we know that the best way to make that happen is for us to take care of our business.
Joe, did Bo's, in talking about Bo, the run before the touchdown in the second quarter where he carried those guys and Andre Davis grabbed them, was that a moment that you look back on? Did that change the game for you guys offensively? Did it change it for Bo? And just talk a little bit about how he just seems to get better and what you see out of him
Brandon Oliver's an unbelievable player, and I think that run really set the tone for our season. He runs into Andre. Andre grabs him and carries him, and Bo's churning his legs and running hard, and that really set the tone for our whole season, I think. And Bo's a great player. He seems to get better with every carry he takes. He's really special, and that run really showed it.
What kind of inspiration do you guys get from whether it's that run or just being the person that he is? What kind of inspiration does he bring?
Bo in general is just a very inspiring person. He did a great job before the game, and he gave our chapel service before the game, and I don't think that's ever been done as a player giving the chapel service. So he's a very inspirational guy. He's very spiritual. He doesn't talk a lot, but when he does talk, it's meaningful. So he's a great leader. He leads through his actions and through his words.
Go get Devin back.
Yeah, he's closer to being ready to play against Toledo. He did some things yesterday. We'll look forward to seeing him do a little bit more today.
Any other injury updates?
That's, Devin. He's the only one right now, even though he didn't play last week. We're hopeful to get him back. We got Bean back. We got Fink back. Sordich. I mean, we've been very real solid in that area. And I think I attribute that to our players in terms of their focus and the way they've strength trained, not just in the offseason, but during the season. We get after them pretty good in that weight room still, because it's a long season and you have to maintain good durability and good strength, and we've been very fortunate.
Coach, what is the status of Redmond?
Well, right now we hope that within maybe another week, that we'll see more progress and closer to seeing him getting back on the practice field and getting some reps and seeing where he's at. He will not be ready for this game at this time, but he's improving. So hopefully as things go along the way, we'll get him back and sooner than later.
You talked about his attitude when he got hurt against Kent. How's his attitude been lately with the team, kind of like being a coach or a cheerleader on the sideline?
Adam's locked in. He understands that he can't physically be out there, but he can certainly help and encourage his teammates. He did a lot. We challenged him to stay, locked in on the game plan, the assignments. When you're on the sidelines, I want to see your eyes looking out there and putting yourself in those shoes of Alosi and Bell. So when they do come off and when Coach makes the corrections, don't interfere with Coach first. Let Coach get with them, and then you guys can share some of the communication there. He did a great job. He really is. He's an inspirational player, and he cares deeply about his teammates. So it's good to see that he's encouraging us to continue to move on. As Jason Carlson has. Jason's done a great job. It's tough. It really is, because those kids mean a lot to this team. So we go into the game, competing for one another and fighting with each other's spirit in our hearts. And those guys have been great leaders for us, and we're going to continue showing up and not disappoint one another.
Now, how much of a family type aspect do you guys feel on the team? I guess for Joe, you too. It seems after every press conference, you guys are always joking and laughing and having a good time. And how much of a family atmosphere is there created between the team and coaching staff and whatnot? How does that help you be successful?
Well, Joe, would you like to?
Yeah, sure. Well, like Coach had addressed earlier, it's about the process. And, in years past, I think we were all worried about just winning. And now we're really enjoying it. And like last night, Bo, Alex, Fred, and Jimmy and I went out for wings and watched the games last night. Like stuff like that. Just being close off the field is really going to help us win on the field, because I know that I could trust those guys and they can trust me. And so moments like that really, I think, lay out a foundation for a successful football team.
Jeff, last year's Toledo's game was one of those losses that you referred to earlier. It was a close loss. It was a pretty tight game. Was it one of those ones that you look back on now that was maybe a growing step that led to the winning 3 of the last 4 and led to what we're seeing this year?
What we saw is Joe went in the game, late in the game. Was able to, help, spark us. We were able to score in that game late. There were some other opportunities in that game. We look back at it. We're not the same team. that's taken the field this year and for this upcoming Tuesday as we were last year against Toledo. We respect them. We respect all our opponents. We fear no one. We got to go back to the same mindset we have all year long and be able to take it on the road. But I do believe that last year's game, I think, showed us that we can compete with anybody in this league and anybody in the country, and that's what we have to have is that mindset. And I know these kids feel it in their heart and in their mind to be able to do that. But that was a tough loss because we had a lot of control going into the locker room. And third quarter, unlike this year, our third quarter mentality has been outstanding. We're going to need that again. Last year, they were able to move the ball on us and score some points, and we weren't able to respond. But then we saw Joe coming in and with the rest of the team, and I think that did trigger some things that helped us secure 3 out of the last 4 games in winning. But this year's team is looking to win a championship, not just a few games, and we got to be able to do it against Toledo on the road.
Joe, what are you guys doing at halftime, or what are you seeing in these third quarters that's making you guys so successful on the offensive end?
It just starts with the adjustments that Coach Quinn and Coach Wood are making at halftime. Those guys are great football minds, obviously. We have a lot of faith in them. And staying confident at halftime. We struggled in the first half last game, and just staying down to earth and ready and not getting at each other's throats and just realizing that we're good players. We have a lot of good offensive playmakers around us that can make plays. So we have to stay calm and cool and collected and just realize that it's going to happen. We're gonna score points. We're going to move the ball. We just have to stay confident and stay ready.
And Coach, you said that sometimes you don't even have to say anything. Is it these guys knowing that we didn't necessarily against Ohio only 7-3, and then they come out and lay the pedal in the third quarter? Is it just they knowing what they have to do?
Yeah, I think what you find is the maturity level, how much experience these young men have had playing the game together. That's a major, benefit when players have gone through as redshirt freshmen, as starters, and some of these guys are 3-4-year starters. They've been in that locker room. They've been in these games and playing against teams like Ohio. Let's face it, Ohio is one of the best football teams in this league. And we know how good Ohio is and how well they're coached. And so to go in the locker room 7-3, we're winning the game. And I knew our team, more than just the score, was the fact that what I was seeing playing and play out, it was starting to come into our favor. And I knew our guys were going to come out of that locker room for the second half, locked in and energized to go out there and create some takeaways, create some momentum with special teams and certainly with big hits. We were able to do that, and then the big boys up front, the O-line, started rolling. So they know way ahead of time, how we're going to conduct our business, before the game, at halftime, and how we secure, ourselves and how we move on to the next opponent each week. But, the family question is a big component of what I want in our program. We invite our families out to practice, the kids. I want those young men to see the success that we've had as coaches, to demonstrate to them what it is to be a father and a husband, because that's what we are before we're football coaches, inviting them over to our houses, and eating dinner. And, that's a big part of this. And when you bring people closer together and you build those relationships, you're going to get a lot more out of them because they're going to respect what you're asking them to do. And they're not going to be sensitive because you've built a relationship, a trusting relationship that we've got their best interests at heart. Because I think the question was outstanding, and because that is a big reason why we are much closer and our players enjoy being out there together. And we got to continue that because as we keep climbing that mountain, it's going to get a little steeper, and it's going to get a little slippery, and it's going to get a little bit more challenging. So we got to stay locked in as we continue this journey.
Jeff, knowing what you had in Bo and Muse and Khalil coming into the season, how important was it for Joe to continue that development and settle that spot at quarterback, and to be as efficient as how
Well, I think Joe learned, from an outstanding teammate, Alex Zordich, in terms of his leadership, how much he cares. He saw it with Drew Willie, and he even mentioned at times about, being a young player in this area and seeing the Drew Willies come through here. We knew that Joe had a lot of capabilities to lead this offense and be a starter as the quarterback. He makes tremendous decisions. He's got a good knack for the game. Don Patterson, my quarterback coach, have done a great job in developing him. And we didn't put him in. Unlike Zordich, what I can't tell you enough is how special Alex Zordich is to this team, and the way he's handled this situation has been fantastic. It serves as an example of a young man who's other-centered. Because we put Zordich, if you remember, in the starting position as a true freshman, and I'm not sure if he was quite ready. He felt like he was ready, and we knew we needed to go in that direction. And then the very next year, we brought Chaz Anderson wanted to come here, and we felt that was our best option to win games. And then, last year, he did a fantastic job, leading us against the Georgias and the Morgan States. And then, we lost some guys in that Kent State game, but he was still able to compete. He was one of the guys that just kept leading his team and kept fighting with passion and determination. And then what happened was, about this time, Zordich got hurt. And, but his spirit was there, and he was helping Joe, and Joe was listening and learning and coming along. And then all of a sudden that opportunity came, and we see how often this happens in the game. But it's exciting because I believe Joe has really embodied all the things that we want at that position, and he's able to bring others along, and he's trained hard. I think what he's done is earn the respect of his teammates, because all summer he trained extremely hard to be in better shape, to learn the game better, to know how to operate the offense, and make clutch plays in increasing more difficult things that defenses are doing. So this was huge, because this was a big part of what we needed to secure at that position. Because Zordich, a great player, outstanding teammate, love him. He's ready. He'll be ready to go in if we need him. But Joe is taking it he's taking it to another level, and it's exciting to see that.
Anything else? All right, thanks, guys. Available for one-on-one.
Good job, Joe.